Hi everybody, my name is Danielle Nicole and welcome to Monetary Makeup. Today's video is going to be all about Scott Barnes and the new SNATURAL2 palette. Now you guys know I am a lover for cool tones if you follow me, so I am so excited to dip into this palette. And while we review SNATURAL2, the topic of the day is going to be the #1 thing that most people think Medicare covers and why, if possible, you should plan for this tip before turning 65. So if you're excited to get started, don't forget to hit the like button, the notification bell, and let's get started right now. So this SNATURAL2 palette I feel like kind of came out of nowhere, and as I mentioned, I love cool tones so much, so I just had to pick it up. So first let's start off with the packaging. So this palette, of course, screams Scott Barnes. It has his nice name all over it, nice and large, and it does have a nice magnetic closure, which I always appreciate. When you open this palette up, it does have a full horizontal mirror, and on the other side, here are what the 12 shades look like. I'll be doing swatches as well as a tutorial for you guys. And one thing I want to mention about this palette is on the back, it actually has a shelf life of 24 months, which is fantastic. I find most shelf lives are 12 months or under, and it does have the little bunny on the back saying not tested on animals. As far as on the back of the packaging goes, it says SNATURAL #2 palette contains 11 luxury eyeshadows and 1 high pigment shimmer. Now it's about 9 o'clock at night tonight, you guys, so we're just going to do a quick, easy look. So let me get you guys zoomed in. Now that I have you guys zoomed in, here's a close-up of what the 12 cool tone shades look like. Just to save time, I am going to put up a picture right now of what the 12 different swatches look like. That way you guys can follow along. Now as the picture of the shades are up, I just want to go through what I feel the pigments are actually of. So the first one is Flesh, which appears to be a matte, Velveteen, which is a shimmer, Extra Small. Now I do find that this shade is more of a topper. I'm not sure if that's what it is listed as, but that's what it looks like to me. Monolith is a matte, Bambi is also a matte, Sizzle is a shimmer, Kaffa is a matte, Greige is a matte, Audacious is a shimmer. Now Cinder looks like it is one of those shades that is kind of mixed between a shimmer or a matte with some shimmer in it. So if you look really close at this shade right here, so it's kind of in between that matte with a little bit of shimmer in it versus a shimmer. So I'm not quite sure what this is, but just wanted to share that with you. Tenacity is a shimmer, and Clay is a matte. I do also have 3 different brushes that I just wanted to share with you all. So I have the number 65, which is actually a bronzer or contour brush, or as Scott calls it, toasting the edges. And as far as the 2 eye brushes go, I have number 63, which is this winger brush right here, and then number 61, which fits perfectly into the crease and is almost like a mini fan brush. So I'll try to incorporate those brushes in today's tutorial, but we'll see. The only thing I have on my eyes right now is the e.l.f. Putty Eye Primer in the shade Rose, not set with any powder. The first shade I'd like to go in with is called Greige. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that, but that is this matte gray shade right here. Going in with Scott Barnes number 61. Now as I was swatching these shades, which I should have put up already, just so you all know, they all did feel very silky, almost similar to the Hindash palette that I recently reviewed, that I will link right up here for you all. The one thing I do want to mention as I was swatching these shades is that I did have to build up the pigmentation, which I typically do only so that way you all can see what the actual shades and undertones look like. That way if you are looking into purchasing this palette, you can see what the shades look like. So this Greige, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, so I apologize. But as far as a transition shade on my fair to light skin, this is a beautiful transition shade. It's not too pigmented, and this number 61 fan brush is doing a fantastic job so far. This fan brush just fits perfectly right into the crease. I am noticing a little bit of patchiness on this eye. I'm not sure if it is the e.l.f. Putty Eye Primer or not, because when I went in on this side and replicated the same motion, same brush, I'm not noticing any of that on this side, but for some reason this side is giving me just a little bit of trouble, but it could be that e.l.f. Putty Eye Primer. I'm not sure quite yet. Next, to deepen up the crease, I'm going to go into the shade Monolith, which is this taupey blue, almost kind of like a light periwinkle gray, but it is on the cool side, of course. Switching to brush number 63, the Eye Winger. So I'm going to focus this on the outer corner just to deepen it up a little bit. Now the reason I picked up these two brushes is because the shapes are so unique. So I do find that for creating a wing, this brush fits perfectly into the socket right here for the outer corner, or you can flip it and go this way to create some definition on the lash line, or even go this way out. See how this fits perfectly right against the lash line to create that sharp line? I'm going to add Monolith to the other eye and I'll be right back. I just wanted to mention really quick that I believe I said the Monolith shade was a flat matte. It is not. It does have a little bit of shimmer mixed in, and I wasn't aware of that, and of course I just applied that to the crease, but I'm noticing it did not emphasize any of my texture, so I would be comfortable going in with those shades that do have a little bit of shimmer mixed in with the mattes. So far everything is blending out great. Also, I went in with the Wayne Goss number 4 brush just to kind of blend everything out on the outer corner, and I did notice a lot of the patchiness went away, and I do have very defined brow bones that come forward lower, which almost create the look of a hooded eye. So once I did that, it definitely helped. So I'm not sure again if it was the primer or the brush, but so far I think everything is blending out great. Next, I'm going to use my finger to tap on the inner half of the lid just above the crease as well, which is the shade Audacious right here. So I'm just going to dip in and use my finger. And this is kind of like a cool tone light grayish blue. Wow, can you see how pigmented? These shimmers are incredible. I actually went in with too much, so just note to self, if you do end up purchasing this palette and you do go in with the shimmers, they are very pigmented, so you definitely only need a little bit. I might end up having to blend a little bit with the brush in a second, but we'll see. Wow, look how pigmented that shimmer is. The difference from this side to that eye is pretty great in my opinion. So let me get the same thing on the other eye. And I am going above the crease just to create the illusion of a bigger eye. This is actually my first Scott Barnes palette. Have you guys picked this up yet, or have you tried any of his other formulas? So far for the shimmers, I am absolutely blown away. Just going to do a little bit of blending with the Wayne Goss number 4 brush, since that shimmer was much stronger than I was expecting. Okay, because that shimmer was so pigmented, I'm going to dip into the shade Bambi, which is this brown shade right here. I'm going to use that same brush number 63, the Winger, and really just focus this on the outer corner close to the lash line. Oh, this brush is so perfect for just adding in a little bit of dimension. I'm really happy I picked up a few of his brushes because they seem to be fantastic quality so far. For the brow bone highlight, I'd really like to dip into this white matte, which is called Flesh. I'm going to stick with brush number 61, the fan brush, since I did just wipe it off. Oh yeah, this white, if you are not into shimmers for highlights, that is beautiful. I wanted to use a matte on the brow bone since I wasn't anticipating the shimmer to be so bam in your face, and I'm really happy I went with that decision with the Flesh shade. Let me know, what do you guys think? Do you like that white for the brow bone highlight? I do have just a tiny bit of fallout, not too much, but just a little bit. And I did not wipe off, or I'm sorry, I did not tap off my brushes while I was using these shades, so just a tiny bit. Okay, for the inner corner, this Sizzle shade right here is definitely screaming my name. So I'm going to go in with the e.l.f. Small Precision Brush for the inner corner highlight. There's a little bit more kick up with the shade Sizzle, so I'm going to use my e.l.f. Glow Dewy Mist just to spray the brush. Ooh, Sizzle is a sizzling shade. I like it. Ooh, that is a beautiful shade. Can you see that inner corner highlight? It is so pretty. The same shade on the inner corner of my right eye. Ooh, that Sizzle shade is beautiful. I will zoom you guys in a minute so you can see up close. For the lower lash line, let's go back in with the shade Grayish, Scott Barnes number 61. So because the top is so defined, I just want to keep the lower lash line a little bit more natural. Ooh, okay. So that shade has a lot more pigment than I was expecting on its own, at least for the lower lash line. These brushes, you guys, they're so unique. So this 61 brush, you can use it for shadow, for the brow bone, and for the lower lash line. So if you're looking for a one and done brush, I do highly recommend 61 and 63. Okay, I really like how that turned out. It was nothing like I was expecting, but that's a good thing. So I'm going to finish up the rest of my makeup, just apply a little bit of mascara, and then I will zoom you guys in. Okay, so the only other thing I did other than mascara was add this white flesh shade on the Scott Barnes number 61 brush just to clean up the edges, and that worked perfect. So I honestly think this white flesh shade would work beautifully as a matte highlight. If I didn't already have a cream highlight on, I would apply it. But I am really impressed with both the mattes and the shimmers in this palette. And once I took that Wayne Goss number 4 brush and buffed out the edges a little bit, everything seemed to blend beautifully, and I'm not seeing that patch anymore. So I'm thinking the number 61 brush, the fan brush, does a great job at putting on pigment there. But if you want to kind of buff the edges away, I think you'll need a different brush. So that's just what my assumption is right now. But here's a close-up. I love these shades. They are such beautiful cool tones. And in fact, some of the other shades in here aren't even super cool like some of the browns. So I think it's a really perfect balance of neutrals but more cools, of course. So far I'm loving it, and this is what the close-up is looking like. Alright, next let's cut into the topic of the day, and then we will get into my final thoughts. Hi everybody, welcome to the topic of the day. So I was meeting with a new client today, and I always ask if you have long-term care. It's not that every single person needs long-term care, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it fits into their budget, but it's just good to understand as part of an overall comprehensive financial plan. And the client is over 65, and she said, well, no, I don't have a long-term care plan per se, but I have Medicare, so I don't have to worry about long-term care. I'm 100% covered. So this is sadly and unfortunately one of the biggest myths I hear about Medicare and long-term care. Most people I meet with, in fact, I used to think this before I got into the finance and insurance industry. So most people think that Medicare covers 100% of long-term care costs, but sadly, this is false. So I do want to know there is a difference between long-term care and home health care, but as far as going to an actual nursing home, Medicare does not cover long-term care costs. So I know whenever we are young and healthy, these are things we often wait to think about and plan for the future until we're a little bit older. But if you're able to at least look into long-term care options, and again, this doesn't mean that it has to be an actual long-term care insurance policy, But of course, the younger you are and the sooner you can start to plan for these things in case you ever need long-term care, for an example, just the overall better. Okay, so now that we understand Original Medicare does not cover long-term care costs, what should we do? So I highly recommend reaching out first to your own financial advisor if you do have a financial advisor, because a lot of the times financial planning and other insurances such as Medicare and long-term care like myself, they tend to overlap. So if you're already working with a financial services representative, that would be the first stop that I would make, is to ask them. Now, if your financial advisor does not work with long-term care options, or you do not have a financial advisor, then I highly recommend discussing these options with an actual long-term care insurance agent. So again, if you do have any other questions, don't forget to comment monetary makeup down below and let me know. I hope that tip was helpful for you all. Next, let's cut into my final thoughts. Hi everybody, so what are my final thoughts for the Scott Barnes Natural 2 palette? So granted, this is my first palette from Scott Barnes himself, but overall, I do have to say that I absolutely love this palette. So I do think the packaging is pretty practical. It's not too big, and it does have a magnetic closure. So overall for the packaging, I think he did a fantastic job. But of course, the packaging is only a small amount, so let's get into the actual product itself. So as far as the overall shades go, are these shades particularly unique? I mean, no, I'm sure you could find these shades somewhere in the makeup universe, of course, but I do really like the color story, because instead of getting just flat, cool tone blues, you actually do have a wide variety of blues and neutral browns, and in addition, you have several different textures. So you have a topper shade, you have shimmers, and you have mattes. Now that is important to me, and a lot of the times when you do pick up cool tone palettes in particular, usually you have way more shimmers than you have mattes, so I do like that it's an even balance of shimmers and mattes. So let's start with the mattes. So I do think that the mattes have a very silky texture, and what's really interesting is that when I swatched these shades, they didn't swatch that great. So I mentioned earlier today that I did have to actually build up these shades when I did the swatches. So I went in a little heavy-handed at first, kind of anticipating that the way they swatch would perform on my eyes, but that was not the case. So all of these shades are actually much more pigmented. So once again, it just goes to show swatches do not always do it justice as far as how the overall shades are going to perform. So I think the mattes themselves are very buttery and I guess you could say almost silky in texture, and they do blend out very easily. So as far as the mattes, they are great. But where I find this palette really shines are these shimmers. Holy cow, when I dipped into that shade Audacious with my ring finger on my eyes, I was expecting it, like I mentioned a second ago, I was expecting just a little bit of pigment, but the payoff on these shimmers are just super opaque. So if you're looking for a new cool tone palette with shimmers and mattes, and also don't forget this palette does have some brown shades in there as well, that I would say lean a little bit more neutral than they do cool. So overall, I would recommend this palette if you are looking for a new cool tone palette to add to your collection. So I am so happy I picked up the Scott Barnes Natural 2 palette. Did you guys even hear about this release? I feel like it kind of got released under the radar. If I wasn't subscribed to his YouTube channel, I don't know that I would have even been aware of the release. But let me know, did you guys pick it up? What are your thoughts about the tutorial today? Do you plan on picking it up? And if you did pick it up, what are your thoughts? Did you like it? Did you enjoy it? Or is it simply on the way? Alright, well I hope this tutorial for the Scott Barnes Natural 2 palette was helpful, and I do hope our topic of the day regarding long-term care, not necessarily being covered by Medicare, was helpful as well. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. All right, troopers, so let me know if you are still here. So this was not actually supposed to be my next video. My next video was supposed to be reviewing the Nikkie Tutorials Nimya Where It All Starts Cream. And I have a lot of thoughts regarding this product, so I am planning on getting a video out in the near future. Something happened regarding the Where It All Starts cream, so if you guys are curious on my thoughts for the Nimya cream, then definitely stay tuned because that'll be coming up very soon. Okay, bye for real now. See you guys later.